Well, greetings from Bradfield. I did try to record the whole of this recording outside, but it's a bit blustery this April day. But greetings from Bradfield. I hope you are well as you watch this, and I hope this picture has given you a bit of a breath of Bradfield air. But we'll go inside for me just to say a few words about a poem that I read recently. It's a bit quieter inside. Last Christmas, I received a few presents, one of which was a book token. And I knew straight away what I wanted to get. You will know that I enjoy reading Russian novels. And for a long time, I've been wanting to reread Dr. Zhivago. I remember reading a copy that my parents had when I was a teenager, so I never bothered to get my own copy. I reckoned I would always be able to borrow theirs. And I can remember reading it as a teenager. I'd been prompted to do so by going with my mother to a Russia exhibition at Earl's Court. And I bought myself a souvenir, a Russian leather bookmark, which I still use. And I think about the same time the film with Omar Sharif had been released. But last year, going through my parents' books, I was looking through them, and Dr. Zhivago was nowhere to be found. They must have given it away some time ago. So anyway, in January, with my book token, I set off to Waterstones and was delighted to get a new or fairly recent translation of Dr. Zhivago, by Boris Pasternak. It was written in the 1950s, telling the story of one man, Yuri Zhivago, from childhood through adulthood, through the turbulent half of the first half of the 20th century in Russia. The then Russian authorities suppressed the novel, but it was published in Italy in 1958. And Boris Pasternak was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for the novel, but he wasn't allowed to receive it. He died in 1960. His son was finally able to accept the Nobel Prize on his behalf in 1989. So I read Dr. Zhivago again, and then as soon as I'd finished it, I started again at the beginning and read it through again. It's a deeply moving account of a life and lives lived through appallingly difficult times. Experience or understanding of God only surfaces rarely in the novel, but the final section of the novel is a series of poems that Yuri Zhivago wrote over the years. One of the poems is called Evil Days. Evil Days. When in the last week he was entering Jerusalem, thundering hosannas met him. People ran after him with branches. But the days grow more grim and menacing. Love will not touch hearts, brows are knitted scornfully, and now it's the afterword, the end. The sky lay over the courtyards with all its leaden weight. The Pharisees sought evidence, twisting and before him like foxes. And the dark powers of the temple hand him to the scum for judgment. And with the same ardour as they praised him earlier, they curse him now. The crowd from the lot next door peered in through the gate, jostling and shoving each other as they waited for the outcome. And a whisper crept through the neighbours, and rumours came from all sides, and childhood and the flight into Egypt were recalled now like a dream. He remembered the majestic hillside in the desert, and that height from which Satan tempted him with power over all the world. And the marriage feast at Cana, and the miracle that astonished the guests, and the misty sea he walked on to the boat as over dry land, and a gathering of the poor in a hovel, and the descent into the dark cellar where the candle died of fright when the raised man stood up. Poem by Yuri Zhivago by Boris Pasternak, translated by Richard Pavia and Larissa Volokonsky. When in the last week he was entering Jerusalem, thundering hosannas met him. People ran after him with branches. The poem begins with the familiar scene of Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. But the days grow more grim and menacing. Love will not touch hearts, brows are knitted scornfully, and now it's the afterword, the end. It's been a long and dark week for Jesus, grim and menacing days. Scorn triumphs over love, and now it's the end. The sky lay over the courtyards with all its leaden weight. The Pharisees sought evidence, twisting before him like foxes, that sense of dark clouds looming and Jesus' accusers twisting and turning. And the dark powers of the temple hand him to the scum for judgment. And with the same ardour as they praised him earlier, they cursed him now. We all know the verse from the hymn by Samuel Crossman, "My Song is Love Unknown." The verse that goes, "Sometimes they strew his way and his sweet praises sing, resounding all the day, hosannas to their king. Then crucify is all their breath, and for his death they thirst and cry." The crowd from the lot next door peered in through the gates, jostling and shoving each other as they waited for the outcome. And those who had followed Jesus are now watching from the sidelines. And a whisper crept through the neighbours, and rumours came from all sides, and childhood and the flight into Egypt were recalled now like a dream. They remember Jesus, their experiences, their hopes, including how he had escaped from danger in the past. And he remembered the majestic hillside in the desert, and that height from which Satan tempted him with power over all the world. And as they're remembering the past, so Jesus himself remembers some particular moments, Satan tempting him in the wilderness, and the marriage feast at Cana, and the miracle that astonished the guests, and the misty sea he walked on to the boat as over dry land. Jesus remembers the miracles. It was different then. Now it's dark. But after all, there will be life. And a gathering of the poor in a hovel, and the descent into the dark cellar, where the candle died of fright, when the raised man stood up. Back outside for a final blast of Bradfield air. Thank you for being with me for this short moment. And just during these days, I pray that you're keeping well. And may God bless you and all those whom you love and care for. And may God bless us all.